Draft week is officially here, Steelers fans, and on Thursday, the 2025 NFL Draft will officially be open. And today on Steelers Talk, I'm going to get your draft week started here by explaining why I believe Alabama quarterback Jalen Milroe is going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers' #1 quarterback target in the 2025 NFL Draft this year, and why I even think the Steelers could draft Milroe in round 1. Really expediting the process here of taking a quarterback and not taking Shedeur Sanders or Jackson with their number 21 overall selection. So later on today, Coop and I, we're going to be going live at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time for Steelers Talk Live. I'm going to have my final mock draft for the Pittsburgh Steelers on that show. Also going to be breaking down my final round 1 big board for the Pittsburgh Steelers. If you guys want that content, join us at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time later and click that subscribe button to never miss any of our draft week coverage. 2 videos a day, and then, of course, extensive coverage during the NFL Draft, where we will be live on this channel for every single pick in all 7 rounds. So thank you guys so much for all of your support. This is the biggest week for our channel of the entire NFL schedule. So I just want to give a big thank you to you guys to kick off today's show. So before we talk about Milroe, I want to set the table for why I think that the Steelers are going to be looking for a developmental type quarterback in this year's NFL Draft. And the first reason here is Pittsburgh is currently in a win-now mindset. All right, and the reason why they're in a win-now mindset is because their team captain, Cam Hayward, is in the final 2 years of his NFL career, and they want to try to do whatever they can to help him win a championship. So obviously the urgency to win now is very high for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mike Tomlin, even Captain Cam himself, have stated to the media how urgent this organization is to try and have playoff success before Cam Hayward hangs up the cleats for good. And as a result, Pittsburgh is prioritizing older veteran quarterbacks as opposed to younger quarterbacks, all right? And the reason why they're not prioritizing young quarterbacks as they try and win a Super Bowl here in the next 2 seasons is because they understand that quarterbacks with little to no playoff experience have very, just traditionally speaking in NFL history, not a lot of success in the postseason, and they very rarely win Super Bowls, all right? So the guys that do have success in the postseason are the guys that have been there. They have done that. They're not afraid of the big moment, which is why we have seen older quarterbacks be the priority for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They went on and got Russell Wilson last year, and then now they're going after an even older Aaron Rodgers here in 2025. And, we have seen older quarterbacks, be able to go to new teams after the age of 40 and be able to, put those teams in title contention. Brett Favre back in 2009 took a 10-6 Vikings team and then had one of the best years of his career at 40 years old, leading them to a 12-4 record, the number 2 seed in the NFC, and took them to the NFC Championship game. Peyton Manning, towards the end of his career, no mobility whatsoever, was able to put up godly-type numbers with the Denver Broncos and, of course, won a Super Bowl in his final season there in Denver. And then Tom Brady, 43 years old, goes from the Patriots with one of the worst seasons he's had in his entire career to going to Tampa Bay and taking a 7-9 Tampa Bay Buccaneer team the year before that to the Super Bowl and winning a ring in his first season there in Tampa. So the Pittsburgh Steelers right now are trying to get some of that magic with a future Hall of Famer in Aaron Rodgers to come in here and kind of reinvigorate some of that magic that Favre had in Minnesota, that Manning had in Denver, and then, of course, Tom Brady had in Tampa Bay. And it does seem at this point that the Pittsburgh Steelers are willing to wait for Aaron Rodgers in order to get that kind of older veteran type of magic and to try and get Cam Hayward that ring before he retires. And, I do think that Pittsburgh feels good that Rodgers will eventually sign with this football team. Aaron Rodgers said on the Pat McAfee show last week that he's had many conversations with Mike Tomlin, and the details of those conversations have led Mike Tomlin and the Steelers to believe that Rodgers will eventually sign with this football team. And even if it's not Rodgers, even if they strike out on him, I do think that the Steelers are going to be willing to trade for another veteran quarterback to be this team's starter next season. Someone like Kirk Cousins or somebody like Derek Carr. If either of those guys are made available, I think the Steelers would be perfectly fine having either one of these quarterbacks as their short-term solution at the position as they try to win a Super Bowl within the next 2 seasons. And what makes sense to me here, guys, is that, I think that if you're going to be looking for a quarterback, if you're going to be looking for a quarterback in the draft and you're going to have a short-term solution as a veteran quarterback, you're going to want somebody that's a little bit more developmental than somebody that's more ready to play now, which is why I do think that the Steelers will end up drafting a developmental type quarterback in the NFL draft this year. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comment section. What should be the focus for Pittsburgh's rookie quarterback that they draft in the NFL draft this year? Type S if you want them to draft somebody ready to start for them year one, or type P if you want them to draft a project to develop over the next several seasons. Before we get into the rest of today's show, this is the pinned comment on today's show, by the way. Let's have a word from our sponsor here at Mando Whole Body Deodorant. And spring is in the air and the weather is warming up. I'm most looking forward to taking my dog out for long walks this summer and going to watch a ball game on the weekends, whether it's with Coop or whether it's with Cassie. I'm looking forward to it even more because I've started using Mando Whole Body Deodorant, because unlike some other DOs I've tried, it can actually handle anything. Mando is safe to use anywhere in your body and is clinically proven to block odor all day and control odor for up to 72 hours. Also, Mando's entire line of products are baking soda-free, paraben-free, and you can choose from a variety of fresh scents like Clover Woods, Mount Fuji, Pro Sport, or my favorite, Bourbon Leather. Mando has a special offer for their new customers to get $5 off their starter pack with our exclusive code and link. Use code CHAT at shopmando.com. That's shopmando.com. And in that starter pack, guys, you can get this tiny bottle of body wash. This is their Bourbon Leather scent, which is my personal favorite. I have a big bottle of this at my apartment here in Dallas, Texas, and I absolutely love it, guys. And the Mando starter pack is really perfect for new customers because it comes with a solid stick of deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice. You can get that body wash that I just showed you, or they have highly recommended deodorant wipes as well. Plus, you get free shipping. As a special offer for our listeners, new customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code that equates to over 40% off your starter pack when you use code CHAT at shopmando.com. It's shopmando.com. Please support our show and tell them that we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando Whole Body Deodorant today. So for me, guys, if you're going to go the developmental route, if you're going to be bringing in Aaron Rodgers, if you're going to trade for Kirk Cousins or Derek Carr to be your short-term solution for this football team, I would rather take a swing. And for me, Jaylen Milroe has the highest upside of any quarterback in the 2025 NFL draft. You take a look at my scouting report here. Start with the positives. I think that he is a special rusher of the football, all right? He's got an incredible combination of size and speed for the quarterback position. Reminds me a little bit of Justin Fields in this regard, where he's 6'2", 225 pounds, and runs a 4.4 flat 40-yard dash time. That is unreal for a quarterback prospect entering the league. And then on film, guys, the vision that he plays with, the power he plays with. He's got incredible long speed to hit home runs, and his jump cut ability to make guys miss is absolutely insane for a quarterback. He also, and because he's such a dynamic rusher, guys, it really does lower the bar for how good he needs to be as a passer, all right? Because he's got that ability to make the offense right with his legs. Time and time again. He doesn't have to be quite as good of a passer to be a successful NFL quarterback as some other guys that don't have this gift. And we already know Coach Tomlin loves QBs with this skill set. He loved that skill set in Justin Fields, and I think that he loves that in Jaylen Milroe as well. Another positive here is that the arm is an absolute cannon. And this is another thing here, guys, that I think lowers the bar for Milroe in terms of the nuances of the position. All right, I think that because he's got that cannon of an arm, he can fit it into those tight windows. He can be a tick late on some throws and still fit it into those windows. Whereas somebody else, somebody maybe like a Shedeur Sanders, is going to have trouble, if he doesn't get perfect timing, if he doesn't have the proper footwork, if he doesn't throw with anticipation. Milroe can get away with some of those, lack of nuances at times. And, with Milroe's incredible arm strength and dynamic rushing ability, these two kind of great physical traits, he can afford to be imperfect on the NFL football field as a passer, which is certainly something that raises his floor and even raises his ceiling as an NFL quarterback, whereas guys like Shedeur Sanders, guys that have below average arm strength for an NFL starter, somebody that doesn't have high-end athleticism, is not a dynamic rusher of the football. He's going to have to really be elite in his mental processing, elite in his anticipation, and elite in his accuracy. And that's going to be, a very thin margin of error for a guy like Shedeur Sanders, whereas the margin of error with Milroe would be a lot greater. Then you get to the flashes of NFL processing. Now, we'll get to the negatives here where it's not perfect, but you do see Milroe get to his second read more often than he gets credit for. I think a lot of people just say he's a one read and run type of quarterback, but actually he had the highest PFF grade last year of the top quarterbacks in this class past his first read. And, he doesn't get there as much as like Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders and Tyler Shough, but when he does get there, he's got the highest grade out of any quarterback in this class. So he does show those flashes of NFL processing and anticipation. He just needs to show it more consistently. Then he does protect the football. His turnover-worthy play percentage this past year was sitting at 2.5%, which is a pretty darn good number. That was tied for 27th in college football out of 144 quarterbacks with at least 150 pass attempts. So Milroe did do a pretty decent job protecting the football this past year. And then also the final point, and this is why people are going to want to believe in Jaylen Milroe and why I think he's going to be a high draft pick, is that he is a high character guy. If you're going to be getting a developmental type quarterback, you're going to want somebody that's going to put in the work to make the proper steps to become a great QB. And Milroe comes from a military family background where he's extremely disciplined. He won the academic Heisman in 2024, so highly intelligent person as well. Got his master's degree in business in just 4 years while playing football for the University of Alabama. Also, the athletic buildup is living proof of how much time he puts into his craft. And then also, apparently, he has interviewed extremely well during the NFL Combine, during the NFL draft visits. Apparently, he is passed with flying colors, and he's got a personality that people want to play for and with. And I think that he's somebody that NFL teams want to believe in. But Milroe is also still pretty raw as a prospect. And drafting him in the first round, if you're the Steelers, would 100% be a risk. I'm not trying to say he wouldn't be. So we can take a look at some of the negatives with Milroe. Number one, accuracy to all three levels of the field need to get a lot better. Short, intermediate, and deep balls. For me, this comes down to mechanics. All right, footwork, pocket footwork. He tends to have a really narrow base, which is going to lead to some accuracy inconsistencies, and then I do think he's got some hitches in his throwing motion in his upper body mechanics, which do get him in trouble. Plus, he's also not the best thrower on the run either. So there are a lot of foul balls on his tape, but he did throw for like 64, close to 65% completion percentage this past year, which is better than former first-round picks in Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, for example. And I do think that the accuracy things are fixable because they come down to mechanics. I think if you can teach him to have better base, if he gets with the right quarterbacks coach to fix some of his upper body mechanics, I think like Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen coming into the league, who had kind of these type of mechanical type of issues, I absolutely think it's fixable for Jaylen Milroe to become more accurate in the league. Then another negative here is that he's just late too frequently. This is kind of similar to like Justin Fields, where he'll take a couple hitches too late. The timing isn't exactly what you want it to be. Now, he's got a cannon for an arm, so he can still fit it into some of these tight windows, and he can afford to be late at times. But in the NFL, he's not going to have as much time as he had in college, even in the SEC. So he's guilty of taking extra hitches. He needs to play on time more often. There's some really good flashes of him hitting his back foot and then throwing a beautiful ball in rhythm, but he has to do it more often if he's going to be a high-end passer at the NFL level. And then there's the lack of touch on his passes as well. He's somebody that another kind of similarity to Justin Fields here is that he's got one pitch and it's a 100-mile-per-hour fastball, and that's great when you're ripping the intermediate dig route. But when you're throwing the deep ball, it really forces him to be perfect with his accuracy when throwing the ball down the field, or it's going to be a foul ball. And you can certainly see that with the lack of consistency with the stroke to all levels of the field. So my grade for him is that he's a late day one, early day two type of project quarterback that you sit for at least a year and has the potential to be a potential superstar quarterback in the National Football League. My low-end comp for him would be a bigger Malik Willis, who ended up going in the third round, by the way, because he is a bit smaller. The mid-level comp, I think, is Justin Fields. And honestly, I think Milroe and Fields, given where they are in their current development, Milroe's not that far behind Justin Fields, and Fields is heading into year 5, whereas Milroe is heading into year 1. Fields also went in the first round, by the way. And then the high-end comp, if he fixes the accuracy issues and his mechanics and all these different things, he has a chance to be a bigger version of Lamar Jackson, which is an incredible ceiling, and a lot of things need to go right for him to hit that ceiling, but the physical upside is certainly there where he could be a potential super weapon in the NFL if he goes to the right team. So my final quarterback rankings for this year, I do have Cam Ward ranked above him, but I do think Milroe, with the high-end upside and the high character traits, I would take him over Louisville's Tyler Shough, who I think is more pro-ready. And then Jaxson Dart out of Ole Miss I have as my number 4 quarterback, with Shedeur Sanders down at number 5. So those are my quarterback rankings for this year. And in my opinion, guys, Milroe would be best served on a team willing to be patient while he develops. And I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers make sense for that. I think the New York Giants might make sense for that. The Los Angeles Rams certainly make sense for that as well. But I think for the Pittsburgh Steelers, the ideal situation, at least in terms of the eyes of Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan, is you bring in Aaron Rodgers for the next year, maybe next 2 years, to be your starting quarterback. You draft Milroe to learn behind one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, to develop the nuances of the position while not having too much pressure to play right away. And then when Rodgers eventually retires, he can pass the torch to Jaylen Milroe, and hopefully he can be your franchise quarterback for the next decade plus here in the Steel City. And listen, man, with Milroe, Pittsburgh could absolutely have the next super weapon type of quarterback in the AFC. And there's certainly an argument to be made that with some of the quarterbacks that the Steelers are going to have to deal with in this conference for the next decade, you need to be able to match that level of talent at the quarterback position. You're going to have to deal with Mahomes. You're going to have to deal with Josh Allen. You're going to have to deal with Lamar Jackson. And, of course, you're going to have to deal with Joe Burrow. 2 of those are within your own division. So the reality is, guys, the Steelers need to try and find players at the quarterback position for the future that can feasibly compete with these players from a talent perspective. And I think that another important point to keep in mind here, guys, is that even though Milroe is a raw prospect, I'm not sitting up here saying that he's not. He's got a long way to go. But, he's not really any more raw or any worse of a product right now than some other round 1 projects that ended up going in the first round and ended up playing phenomenal football in the National Football League. Just take a look at the final years for Lamar Jackson compared to Jaylen Milroe here. Much higher completion percentage, a higher yards per attempt passing the football, a higher passer rating. The big time throw percentage was over a point higher, and then the turnover-worthy play percentage was over a point less. So Milroe's final season with Alabama was actually better than Lamar Jackson's, and we all know what happened with Lamar Jackson, 2-time NFL MVP. Speaking of MVPs, Josh Allen with Wyoming back in 2017. Much higher completion percentage for Milroe, much higher yards per attempt, much higher passer rating, and even though the big-time throw percentage isn't quite as high, the turnover-worthy play percentage is over 2 points less than Josh Allen. So it's absolutely possible for prospects like Milroe to develop at the next level into superstars. And, I do think that Milroe would be a risk. For every Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, there's an Anthony Richardson, there's a Malik Willis, there's a Will Levis, and, it is a risk to get a guy like this. Absolutely. But I think that the upside and the hit rate on quarterbacks like this is worth it. Look at so many of the best quarterbacks in the league today. Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Jordan Love. All these guys were considered projects coming into the league, and now they're star quarterbacks for their respective franchises. So I'm sure you guys have some questions for me at home, and the first one is, why not take Milroe in round 3 if he's available instead of, taking him in round 1? The answer to that question for me, guys, is he likely doesn't fall to pick number 83. I think that Milroe is too talented and too much of a high-character guy where I think at the very least he goes early round 2. So I don't think the Steelers can get him in round 3, and I don't think they want to risk losing him. I think that having a player like this that could be a potential superstar is something the Steelers want to instill in their quarterback room heading into the year. And then another question that I'm sure that you have is, what about the other needs at defensive tackle and running back? And I think that the answer to that question, guys, is they've done a ton of research on defensive tackles and running backs in the middle rounds this year. And I think that they believe they can get starting caliber players at both of these positions in the middle rounds of the NFL draft. You take a look at the top 30 visits for the Steelers at the running back position. I mean, most of these guys outside of Omarion Hampton and maybe Travion Henderson are expected to go on day 2 or even day 3. And that's 9 visits out of your top 30 visits were running back, so obviously that's an important position for Pittsburgh. And then defensive tackle-wise, like you had another 8 that were defensive tackles and only 1. Derek Harmon out of Oregon is expected to go in round 1. So the Steelers certainly feel like and certainly set themselves up to take running back and defensive tackle in the middle rounds, which of course would set them up to take Jaylen Milroe in round 1. Then there's the fact as well that Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan were present at Jaylen Milroe's pro day, and they were not present at the pro days of Shedeur Sanders. They were not present at the pro day of Jaxson Dart, who apparently they have round 1 grades on. They were not present at Tyler Shough's pro day, but they were at Milroe's, and to me, I think that that's significant because if you're going to be drafting a quarterback in round 1 to be your new franchise quarterback, I would want my GM and my head coach to be there when he's there to throw. And not only were they at the pro day, but they had dinner with him the night before. So to me, that tells me that they are significantly interested in Jaylen Milroe in this draft. And my prediction is that Pittsburgh would prefer to trade down and still get him in the first round. I'm not sure if they would love to stick and pick at 21 and get him. I think they would like to trade down to like number 25 and then take him there while getting an additional day 2 pick. But listen, man, if they're forced to stick at 21 and they don't find somebody to trade down with, I could certainly see them sticking and picking with Jaylen Milroe as well to make him their first-round selection. So let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Would you be happy with Jaylen Milroe in round 1 if the Pittsburgh Steelers make that decision? Give me a yes or a no down there in the comments section. I want to give a big shout-out to all the real ones that made it to the end of today's program. Guys, again, later we're going to be going live at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. For Steelers Talk Live with some great pre-draft content for you guys to get your draft week started. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button. Thank you to all the real ones that made it to the end of kind of this longer video. You guys are the absolute best. I will see you guys later today on Steelers Talk Live. And until then, here we go, Steelers.